bam, bam, bam. Just give it a couple more minutes, guys. Pinning that to the top. Here we go. Hi, Paul. Thanks for joining us. I'll get started off. I'm sure a few more will join in over the next few minutes. Hi, guys. Welcome to Live and Undrugged, episode 29, if you can believe that. I'm speaking with Jane tonight. Julie. I do apologise. Who has a friend that is serving a 30-year sentence and is on year 13 for a murder he did not commit, but he was a secondary in. As always, thanks to my sponsors, No Means City Clothing and Armour Scaffolding. Thank you for coming on. So let's just start. What can you tell me about your friendship with Mark? You and Mark.
I've known Mark most of his life, really. I know his family really well. I've known Mark a long time. He's a genuine person, really caring, really close to his mum. His mum brought him up alone, and if you see him and his mum, they've got a really special relationship, and I think that shows the genuine kind of person he is. He's very much for his family. He's a diamond person. Really nice person. And I'm not saying that just because I know him. He is if you ask anybody that knows him, they'll all say what a lovely person he is.
Right. So what can you tell me about the case? What happened and how he's in the predicament that he's in at the moment?
Okay, so somebody got shot. It was supposed to do with drugs. Mark was in prison. He was serving a sentence just for fighting, nothing serious. And they arrested his brother and a friend of his, and his cellmate, who was facing deportation to Somalia, decided to say that he heard Mark on the phone. He said he heard that the alleged shooter call Mark up and say he'd stuck 10 in him or something along them lines. That's the only evidence they had. That he did have a phone call from the shooter, but there was no phone calls leading up to before the incident. It wasn't a regular occurrence. The CPS refused to charge Mark for 6 months, even though it's continually applied. They refused to do it. Eventually they decided to. We don't actually know why, because no further evidence was brought forward. It was still the same statement from his cellmate. Incidentally, his cellmate was not only facing deportation, he had a very long string of convictions, including several armed robberies. He also had 13 aliases and 9 dates of birth, and every time he was arrested, he'd give a different name and a different date of birth. So he's known to be a prolific liar by the police. Right. We also believe he had a few mental issues.
Right.
And because of the joint enterprise, in 2000, I don't know if you're aware, but in 2009, with the joint enterprise, all you had to do was to be guilty by association, by knowing somebody, and by them saying that you could have had the power to foresee that the crime was going to occur. So the evidential bar was minimal back in 2009. In 2016, the law changed, and they now decide you have to have proof of intent, burden of intent. And we believe if this trial went to court now, Mark wouldn't even get brought into it, because there is no evidence against Mark whatsoever. Even police intelligence in 2007 could not connect Mark to any drugs or anything. Mark's never been in trouble with drugs. The police couldn't connect him. We don't know how he actually really got dragged into this, other than his cellmates, and the fact that it was his brother and his friend that got arrested for the crime.
Right. So just to reiterate, it was a shooting because of an alleged drug debt. Is that right?
That's what it was supposed to be, regarding a related drug debt. Yes, between the victim and Mark's brother, I believe, and Mark, because it's his brother, got brought into it as well, and they tried to say they worked together. They worked together, even though throughout the trial they named somebody else as his brother's partner.
Right.
So I don't know how they lumped Mark into that either, because they fully admitted in court that somebody else was his brother's partner in dealing drugs. The victim's partner said that he did not work for Mark. There was no evidence really to say he worked for Mark in any way. Mark was connected to drugs in any way. Mark wasn't connected to drugs. Mark's never been arrested for drugs. Mark's never been involved with drugs.
Right. So, I just want to understand why the police would.
I think because Mark and Tony are brothers.
Yeah.
And they was quite, Mark wasn't an angel when he was young.
Yes.
But he didn't do it. He wasn't a murderer. He wasn't a gang leader like they said in the papers. He wasn't a drug dealer. He was just a bit of a nuisance, like you are when you're young. Some people are when they're young. And I think because of his brother, I just think they just sort of dragged him into it. And I think they just wanted, they just want some people off the street sometimes because they can be a bit of an headache. Maybe. I don't really actually know why they would have. Mark never did anything that terrible that they should have wanted him off the street. And I don't want to sort of, try and say anything that may not be true. But the gun was also proved to have been used in an earlier shooting a few years previous, and that was connected to Mark's brother again. So they just seemed to wanted to lump him and his brother in together, and yet him and his brother grew up separate. They led separate lives. The brother was brought up by the dad. Mark was brought up by the mum. They led separate lives. They're totally different people, led totally different lives. It was really all to do. The cellmate got a letter about his deportation, and he decided to ask to speak to an officer saying he knew about a murder. And he said that he'd heard this conversation on the phone between Mark and the alleged shooter, and that's it all stemmed from there really. But there was a lot of deported. Pardon? No, he didn't get deported. The police involved themselves in it and wrote to the deportation people. We actually have paperwork to prove that. They've never fully disclosed exactly what went on between them. We've asked for the logs for the CJPU. They've never given us all the logs for that. We've got some of them, but not all of them. There was quite a lot of non-disclosure there. I think now the law's changed again on the disclosure issue. I think we can then try again to get some more disclosure than we had back then, which may sort of help the case. Yeah.
So it was when all this happened, he was already in prison.
Yes.
How long was he serving?
I'm not quite sure, but it was for fighting. It wasn't for long. It wasn't a long sentence. He'd only ever been convicted before as well. Another time for fighting, and one's for stealing a car when he was about 17. Other than that, Mark had no convictions at all.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it seems that they're trying to tar him with the same brush as the brother.
Well, I think that, they say children shouldn't pay for a mother's sins. Well, a brother shouldn't pay for a brother's sins. And I will say that the family are only trying to get one of them out. And I think maybe to a degree his brother dragged him along with it. I don't know. I don't actually understand. I don't understand myself how Mark ended up in there. If I gave you the paperwork to read tomorrow, I think you would have an immense difficulty. You would say the same as me. What the hell is Mark doing in there? What have they got on him? And I think if we could get someone to listen and to review this case, I think they'd have no choice but to let Mark out. But trying to get someone to listen and review it is incredibly hard, because the CCRC when you go to the CCRC, they have a very high test. You nigh and have to prove you're innocent before they'll even let you go through to the appeal court. And you can't go back over stuff that was used. You've got to bring something new in, something. Yes, and if they don't think you've got a probable chance, they won't let you through. And I don't think that's right, because, as I said to you, now the law's changed. People who was convicted before that law change should be able to now appeal their case, because a lot of them would not get through today. When the law came in 2016, some cases immediately got dropped out of court because they knew they suddenly didn't have a case. And I believe the same would have happened to Mark if Mark went to court today. I do not think there is anything there there is nothing. You know, I'd put my life on it. That's how certain I am. I'd put my life on it.
Yeah,
you know, the more you see and read, yeah.
You see, I didn't even know this law existed. You know, guilty by association.
Yes.
I always presumed that they had to be a burden of proof.
No, as I say, before 2000, it was only the famous Jogi case that they ruled that it'd been wrongly interpreted and that foreseeability wasn't enough to convict somebody, but it didn't automatically open the door for those that had been convicted under them circumstances to appeal, which is pretty disgusting, really. You know, the law was wrongly applied, and yet those people don't have the right to appeal their conviction. And surely if a mistake's been made, then they should at least have the choice to have their case reviewed. You know, surely that makes sense. You know, I don't understand why it hasn't happened.
No. And I would imagine, you know, only one person has got out since the law changed, that successfully got out on the joint enterprise charge since the law changed, and that was only because he appealed his conviction the first time, but forgot to appeal his sentence. So when he appealed his sentence, they then overturned it and let him out. He's the one and only person that's ever been let out on the joint enterprise, you know, after the law change. And really, as I say, it should have opened the doors for a lot of people. Those convicted before 2016 should at least be having it reviewed by the Ministry of Justice or something. It's disgusting. You know, they made a mistake with the law. Stand up and admit your mistake and do something about it. Yeah, I mean, there are people that have, you know, in there that have actually committed murder, and they're doing a less of a sentence. You know, at the beginning of this, you said that he has to serve a minimum of 30 years for a murder he did not commit.
Well, they went over his phone records because they tried to say that him and his brother arranged it because of a drug debt, but none of Mark's phone records showed, and it even says that clearly in the paperwork we've got, did not substantiate that claim. There was no phone calls to substantiate him arranging anything. Not any phone calls. There wasn't. His brother never ever visited him in jail. I think he very rarely ever spoke to his brother. Wayne he spoke to occasionally because he was a friend on the outside. But there's nothing to substantiate leading up to. And I think the day of the shooting, evidently there was the victim was supposed to go to the place where it happened a different day, and he changed it because he couldn't make it. Well, Mark would have had no way of knowing that. And Mark didn't find out about the shooting till hours afterwards. And Mark was friends with the victim. Mark was friends with the victim. As even the victim's partner has stood and said she believes Mark, it was nothing to do with Mark. It's unbelievable. If you could read this paperwork and really look into this story, I defy anybody to say they can find something that indicates Mark guilty. There is nothing. And when that's not me because he's my friend. There is nothing to indicate his guilt because he's not guilty. And I don't know how they got away with it. It must be because the evidential bar was so low in 2009 because of just needing foreseeability that they managed to do it. Other than that, there's nothing I defy anybody to pick something out and show it to me that says this is why.
Yeah, I mean, you heard about obviously because there are still over 3,000 people that are serving on the IPP sentence, which is a barbaric sentence. You know, there are people that were sentenced to 6 months on IPP, and they're still in there 13, 14 years later. A guy for stealing bikes, a prolific bike thief, and now he's pretty much served a life sentence. So the miscarriage doesn't surprise me.
Yes.
But
exactly. And the thing is, he's never going to get his life. These years back, he's lost them. He's never going to be the same person anymore. He suffers from anxiety. You know, he gets depressed because he's in there for something he didn't do. And sometimes he says, I'm losing hope, because no one will listen to him. And you know, if you put yourself in those shoes and imagine being locked away, especially now because of COVID, they're in their cells permanently. That imagine being locked away for something you didn't do, and nobody wants to listen. Nobody wants to hear your side. It's just, it must just be devastating. It must be awful. It's, you know, for the IPPs, I know somebody on that as well. It's disgusting, and the government needs to stand up and review these IPPs. They need to review these joint enterprise that happened before the law change. They need to stand up and say, we've made mistakes and it's time we looked at these again. You know, at least review them. That's all they've got to do.
yeah, I mean, I think because we met through a Facebook page called Jengba.
That's right.
Yeah, Jengba, which is
Jenga.
Joint Enterprise, Not Guilty by Association.
Yeah, I think it's pronounced Jenga. I think the B's silent. So
right.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people on this page that you know, you've got the Luke Mitchell case, which is a big one at the minute. You know, that there are a few people sort of pushing in. I know I'm waiting to get Kevin Mitchell on, who served a mammoth sentence for a murder he didn't commit. So you know, there are a lot of miscarriages of justice. I've been made aware of it over the past sort of
it's
2
disgusting.
years. It's hard enough being in there when you're guilty.
Exactly.
But I would imagine, you know, if you're really not guilty, then that's got to be, you know, you say anxiety, that's got to be more than anxiety. You know.
I mean, I just could mention all the conditions in Mark's in Dovegate prison, and the conditions there at the moment. Their cells are like reaching 89 to 90 degrees. They have small metal vents to supposedly let fresh air in, which have been painted over or full of dust. A lot of cellmates are seeking medical treatment for lung conditions, and that they've been told it's because it's inadequate ventilation and the dust in their cells. And I think, you know, that's a denial of a basic human right. Everybody's entitled to somewhere that's with adequate ventilation. To take away even their basic human rights, they're treating them worse than animals. And, you know, there's a pandemic at the moment. If someone in there gets the COVID, it's going to spread like wildfire without ventilation. It's scary. It's awful. And nobody wants to listen again because they're prisoners. They don't want to listen. And it upsets me, because I think, you know, there's still people, whatever happens, they're people. And there are a lot of innocent people in there that shouldn't be in there. There are a lot of guilty people. But it's just disgusting. You know, they deserve their basic human rights. I even tried telephoning the newspapers the other day regarding the conditions in there, and not many of them want to know, because it's prison. It's disgusting. So there's something wrong with our society. It's becoming inhumane in some aspects.
It is, you know. I mean, I've been blessed to be able to speak to a lot of people over the past year or so, and I got to speak to Alan Lord last year, who is famous for the Strange-Way riots, getting on the roof, and he was one of the people that is really sort of one of the forefathers of getting these laws brought into prisons, because before that it was Victorian, slopping out and stuff like that. And it's down to people like him losing their freedom,
yes,
to get the point across that actually you have human rights in prisons.
yes.
I don't know about Dovegate Prison. I don't know if it's a newer prison or an older prison. I would have presumed it would have been sort of younger than like Wakefield or Leeds or.
I think there's a new part to it. I'm not quite sure on that in the history of it, but as I say, to not even have basic ventilation is in a COVID pandemic. They're risking lives. People can die. Maybe when people die, I'm sure the newspapers will jump on it then. And I've emailed so many people, because I think if anything goes wrong in there, they can't deny they knew. I've emailed MPs. I've emailed the prison watchdog ombudsman people, because I don't want them to then deny that they knew what was going on in there. They know the conditions, and they need to do something about it before people die. It's too late when people die.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty late now, to be honest. I mean, exactly. 13 years and still there's people like you fighting to give them a voice. My whole remit is about giving people a voice, because I know what it's like not to have one. I've spoken to many a reformed prisoner in this series that have gone through difficulties in prison. I'm judged on a daily basis by people because of my past. It was one of the reasons that I do this. I get trolls trolling me every now and again through YouTube and stuff like that, because people don't understand. One of my favorite sayings is, a leopard might not be able to change its spots, but it can change the way that it thinks. It can change its attitude. And I think that, part of this and me getting people on like you is to help people change those attitudes. Yes. Because if someone like you is standing up for Mark and won't stop, then there's got to be something in that for me.
Exactly that. And I think, it's the least I can do for Mark, because he needs somebody to stand up, because it's devastating. It's horrible. It's heartbreaking, really. He's lost his life. He went in there as a young person. He's now like nearly 40. Do you know what I'm saying? He can't ever get that back. He's lost that. And for when he didn't do anything, and there isn't even evidence that there's been took wrong, and that's made him end up like, there is no evidence. And this is just, and I will never give up trying to fight for Mark, and I will never give up knocking on doors and emailing people, because someone has to listen somewhere. He should not be in there. And I'm starting a law degree September, an online law degree, because if I have to, I will try and fight it myself, because he shouldn't be in there. It's appalling. He's trying to turn his life around in there. He's trying to do a bit of education. He's trying to join a course to help other, new prisoners that come in. If you met him, you'd understand what a lovely, lovely man he is. He's got a heart of gold. It's heartbreaking that it's happened to someone like him.
Yeah, I know how difficult it is to get into education in there, because you get people in, I learned to read and write as an adult. I learned to read and write at the age of 21. I'm now 44, but you get people in there that are dyslexic. They might not be able to read and write, illiterate, and they want to go in there. They want to do education, but a lot of the places have been taken up
Yeah.
by people who want to do, who have got an education but want to do a degree, because that degree is ticking a certain amount of boxes for that prison, which then means that prison is then entitled to part of a fund for education. This is what I'm led to believe anyway, for education. You know, it's ticking boxes, and then they can say, oh, you know, this person got this degree, this person got a higher education. Whereas basic education, it's not going to tick any boxes, is it? So doing that.
That's right. He's trying, as I say, with the COVID situation, it's quite hard to be able to do anything in the prison at the moment. You know, they've not had no visits for a long time. They're locked up a lot more than they was. They don't always get outside, you know. And as I say, poor ventilator, it's just appalling. And as I say, to be an innocent man and live like that and have to have those conditions is even more disgusting, you know. And his mum is devastated. You know, if you see how close Mark and his mum are, they've got a special relationship. And it's broke her as much as it has him, you know. It's not just one life that's affected by Mark's wrongful conviction. It's a lot of lives, you know. Mark touched a lot of lives when he was outside. He means a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah, you say, I would imagine it'd be really difficult on his mum. I'd like to get his mum on at some point.
She will speak to you. I know his mum will speak. His mum will do anything to get her boy out. She just wants her boy home. That's it. She knows he shouldn't be in there. And as I said to you, they're not fighting for his brother, you know. And that obviously speaks volumes in itself. I don't need to say more than they're only fighting for Mark, you know.
Yeah.
You know, that says enough in itself about me having to elaborate.
Yeah. I mean, I think perhaps an episode is get his mum on, get you on.
Yes.
I'll try and get Andrew on, and I'll try and get a solicitor friend on, and we'll see if we can sort of put the world to rights, really. But you know,
just make someone sit up and take notice. Someone look at it, you know, give Mark some hope. You know, hope is such a big thing when you're in prison and you're going through this. And to Mark, after 13 years, he's losing hope. If you take his hope away, he's got nothing left. You know, what is he left with? They've took his dignity away. They've took most of his human rights away. They've took his freedom away. The only thing he's got left is hope. Surely someone can offer him a bit of hope. Surely in today's society, someone can look and say, hold on a minute, let's review this case. Let's just take a look. You know, what harm would there be to take a look at Mark's case? What harm would there be? What, you know, they could come to the same decision, but why not at least review it and look? And I don't believe for 1 second they'd come to the same decision. So I just don't understand why they won't look. At least look.
I think that some of that is down to funding. Some is down to scrutiny that they would almost certainly get from press and from, you know, if things were proved to be wrong. Taking 13 years away from a man that is innocent, they don't want to. Nobody wants to hear that. And I think that it's a catch-22 situation, and I think that's the heartbreaking thing about it. I don't think.
You know what? I can't actually sit and swallow that. I can't sit and swallow that. I believe we will find a way somewhere. I'm determined to get Mark out because he shouldn't be in there, and I will fight to the death. And like I said, I will knock on doors, I will email, I will contact who I can contact, because they can't just think, well, we made a mistake, let's leave him there. They can't. Someone has to listen. We must be able to. Ministry of Justice, surely they've got it, the capacity to review. The Prime Minister can step in and review or give him a pardon. Something can happen. There's this. They can't just leave him there. They can't. They can't. That's wrong. That's disgusting and wrong. They can't do that. That's not. You know, in today's society, that's wrong to do that. They've got to at least review him. They've got to. And I won't accept them saying no. I will find a way to make someone listen somewhere.
That's good. That's more than admirable. You know, it's people like you that get things done. You know, and if anybody can do it, it would be you. Is Mark allowed to write to people? Is he allowed to email? Is he?
He's allowed
Does
to
he
write.
have visits?
He's allowed to write to people. He can have purple visits, which is like a laptop call. He can use. He's got a prison phone. He can call out on, like if he's got credit. So yes, he is allowed to. No visits at the moment because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
At all. He doesn't have it. People can email him, but he can't email out. He's not allowed access to the internet.
Right. See that you know, I know of prisoners that are, you know,
I think it probably depends on the category of prisoner. Maybe I don't know, because I don't know the full ins and outs of prison. You know, Mark is my concern in his case. In terms of the prisons, I don't know how they work and how they run and things like that. You know, so I couldn't really answer that one, to be truthful. That'd be something you'd have to ask Dovegate. Really.
Yeah. So ideally, in an ideal world, what would you need to happen?
I would like somebody like either the Ministry of Justice, somebody to at least agree to review Mark's case, to take a look, to admit that there's a possibility, a mistake there, and not all three of them. I don't want all three of their cases reviewed, just Mark's, because I seriously believe Mark should not be in there. And how can they take, if I got arrested tomorrow and I tried to use as my witness somebody with a string of convictions, aliases, fake dates of birth that continually lied to the police, they would not let me use him. They would say he was an unreliable witness. So how the hell was he allowed to make a statement to condemn a man to 30 years in prison for murder, when I would not be allowed to use him as a witness for myself? How did they get away with that one? How was that allowed? I don't understand how that was allowed. He would be classed as an unreliable witness if I tried to use him. So I don't know how they even got away with using him in court. He tried to withdraw his statement many a time. We've got paperwork that he says to the police in a phone call, "You're not doing nothing for me. If you're not going to do nothing for me, then I'm not doing this for you." And he says, "I'm going to go to court and tell him you threatened me and made me make a statement." There's loads of stuff on the paperwork that indicates that, you know, he was very erratic, a liar. Also, you know, we asked for the records of what he got in return. They declined to show us them. Really, they should have revealed them, the disclosure. So, as I say, with the new law, maybe we can get that. But I don't understand how somebody like that was allowed to condemn a man to 30 years in prison. It's disgusting. Mark is of better character than the witness that was against him is. I don't, you know, the person, the cellmate had been arrested with handguns before, you know, armed robbery. So, you know, I don't understand how someone like that is allowed to speak up. And surely overhearing a supposed conversation is hearsay. There was someone else that tried to give evidence for Mark and they was told it was hearsay. So why wasn't his evidence hearsay? Because he only heard supposedly. None of it makes sense. And as I say, you're more than welcome to see the paperwork. I defy you to find something in it. I defy the Ministry of Justice to find something in it that indicates Mark's guilt. There is nothing. It's appalling. Honestly, if you read it, it would break your heart, because you would know, same as I know, same as anybody that knows. He's an innocent man, and the years are just going by, and someone needs to stop now and review him, or give him a pardon, let him out, give him a pardon if you don't want to review his case.
Yeah, time served. I mean,
yes.
What you've told me,
they made a mistake, then have they? They could just give him a pardon, just say time served, give him a pardon, no mistake admitted, then, if that's what they don't want to admit. But he should not be in there, and somebody needs to help get him out. If anybody watches this that can help in any way, then I beg you to come forward and help Mark, because he needs it. And we would be grateful for anyone that could offer any kind of help in any way.
yeah. So yeah, I opened that up. If there's anybody out there that wants to get involved with the case on any sort of level, really, get in touch, and I'll
Pass the
put you on
details
to the right people.
Yes, that'd be amazing. That'd be
Because
amazing.
yeah, because this, it's certainly, I certainly believe it warrants looking at.
Yes.
I don't know Mark, so it's not for me to make a
course.
judgment on that. I can
Mhm.
only go on what you tell me and what I read, and
I will just
so
say, if anyone looks this case up, in the newspapers, Marx was called a drug baron and a gang leader. As I say, that was defamatory. None of that was proved in court. None of it. There's no evidence to suggest that, because it's not true. It was purely media articles, and that happens a lot in these cases. There, as I say, nothing was substantiated. It was just. It is defamatory, really. We are in the process of trying to get some of it removed, but being so many years down the line, it's quite difficult to get it removed because it's so old now.
yeah. I spoke to a guy a couple of weeks ago, Terry Anton, that is having problems with the Sun because they made defamatory comments about him.
Yeah.
That caused a whole chain of events, and it caused him a lot of heartache because of things that they said about him.
Yes.
The
Some
free
people, when you
press.
ask them, that's what I mean, you ask someone to help and they go online, look it up, and they say, well, it says, and some people, they can see there's a nasty smell to the story. But if they went behind that nasty smell, they realise it's not as bad as it appears. But no, some people won't look behind it. They won't look behind the sensationalism. They won't look behind and see the person and look at the paperwork and meet Mark and see Mark, because if they dig deeper, they would see a different kettle of fish. They would probably feel like I feel. I work for the NHS. I wouldn't put my name on Mark and support Mark and try and help Mark if I did not 1,000,000% believe Mark's innocent. I know Mark's innocent. As I say, I'd put my life on it. And I mean that. I genuinely would put my life on it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty used to sort of listening to people putting stuff across now, and there are times when things sit true, and there are times when things don't sit true. You kind of learn to
get a feel for things.
Get a feel for things, and nothing about what you've said.
Yeah.
It's complex. It sits true, but the whole case doesn't sit right with me because
no, it doesn't. It doesn't sit right. As I say, I defy anybody. Ministry. I defy anybody to look at Mark's case and say it sits right, because it doesn't. And as I say, if it all happened today, I guarantee you Mark would not have even been brought into it, because the evidence bar would be too low. There is none, apart from a cellmate, as I say, that's a known liar and a known criminal. It's just back then, when the law was different, it was a bit easier to slide things through.
Yeah. So I've just been asked a question. What's Mark's second name?
Osborne.
Osborne. Mark Osborne.
Mark Osborne. Yes.
And is Dovegate Prison?
Dovegate Prison is at, yes. Yes. So if anyone can help with the conditions there as well. But yes, he's in Dovegate Prison. I mean, if there's a way he could talk to you, he'd be willing to talk to you. I don't know if there's a way around it in some way. He'd be willing to talk to you himself, and you would see what kind of genuinely nice person he is. He's a diamond. He's if you see him with like his nephews and nieces before he went away, he's amazing. He's just an amazing person. He is. I couldn't say enough nice about him. He's lovely. He's got such a big heart. A big heart.
I think I'm not sure that that would be allowed. I could try. I'm not sure what the you know what the process is with I would be classed as press, I suppose. I don't know what the process would be. I could look into it.
Yeah.
I'm more than willing to look into it.
Okay.
I'm more than willing to look into any case. If there's a you know, if there's a reason there certainly is a reason. I do know that there are a couple of solicitors that keep their eye on my feed, and a few.
I have there's a charity called the Appeal Charity, that help prisoners like Mark, and I emailed them, and they have contacted us to find out a little bit more, and they quite like non-disclosure issues and things like that. So there are quite a few people interested. It's just, you know, I think you just got to find that one person that really believes, you know, that you want someone that believes. Same as a solicitor, you want a solicitor that believes, because if you believe, you do a better job for somebody, you know, if you believe in that person. But anyone that can help Mark in any way, shape or form, you know, please, if anyone can, we'd really appreciate it. You know, any solicitors, any, you know, legal advisors, anyone in the Ministry of Justice that wants to have a look, anybody that can help, please, if you can, help.
I think this video will go. You know, feel free to use this video. I'll send you the link when it's up online, because I think that sometimes it's fair enough writing to people and writing emails and stuff like that, but you can't always take the emotion. You know, you can't read emotion in emails or letters, or, you know, and you know, tones of voice as well. You can't always pick up that, but when you're there on the screen in front of them, I've asked you some pretty good questions, and all that's come across is honesty. And I think sometimes people need to see that.
Yes, definitely. That's what I say to you. If you could meet Mark, because you would see that he's a genuine person as well. And that's the trouble and all. Nobody sees Mark anymore. You know, he's been locked up for 13 years. So nobody gets to see Mark as Mark. And I think that would open their eyes if they see Mark or met Mark or spoke to Mark. You know, that they would see that he's a lovely person. And as I said to you, I find it really upsetting to. I don't know, his mum must feel, it breaks my heart, honestly, genuinely, to see him in there suffering like that, and for something he didn't do. It's just heartbreaking. Yeah,
I can imagine that. You know, when somebody goes to prison, it isn't just the prisoner that suffers. It's, you know, it's the families, the innocent ones that you know, that are left behind. And especially if Mark is innocent, that's got to be sort of a double kick in the teeth, you know, having to fight to prove someone's innocent.
Yes. Yes, especially as I say, under the current climate with the CCRC, with their test. I mean, I think Jenga are taking a bill where they're trying to get that test lowered to Parliament, because it's only that, I think, the joint enterprise that has to nigh on prove their innocence to get anywhere, whereas anybody else just has to hint at it. And, you know, to have no avenue to go down to try and to get your story out and to get people to listen, it's even more, you know, how can they put somebody away and then you've not got an avenue to say, hold on a minute, I think you've made a mistake. You have your appeal, yes, but that's within 28 days of the trial or something like that. You know, that's not enough time to get things together. That's surely you should be able to, you know, have another appeal, or somebody should be reviewing these cases. There should be an avenue to go down. They should. I don't understand. It's like they put them in, and I find this happens to a lot of working class people like that haven't got the money to sort of necessarily pay to get things done. It tends to, the poorer end of society is the ones that seem to be most hard done by these sort of situations, like the joint enterprise and things like that. It tends to be the poorer end of society that suffer, and the IPPs tends to be those, because I think if you're powerful, it wouldn't be allowed to happen. They wouldn't get away with it.
No, but it is happening, and that's a scary thought. Knowing that, you know, anything could happen, and it could be one of us that's next in that.
Exactly, and that's unfortunately, that's the trouble. People don't realise what's going on, you know, with these joint enterprise and IPPs and things like that, because unless you know someone that's involved in it, you're oblivious to it, and you just think justice is justice. It's only when you start looking behind the scenes, you see how much is wrong with the justice system, and how many mistakes are made, and how hard and difficult, in fact, nigh on impossible, to get someone to listen when a mistake is made and to get it rectified. It's frightening, really. As I say, 'cause it could be your brother, your son, next, your uncle, you know, and it's just, it needs addressing in some way. I don't know. Someone needs to address the whole situation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that the justice system is fit for purpose.
No.
You know, especially you know, prisons as an institution. It's not that they're not there to rehabilitate, which they should be.
Yes.
You know,
they actually, I think sometimes they create more than they cure when they put you in prison, because people come out angry, you know, that everything's took away from them. And I know people say, well, they committed a crime, but they're still a human being. They still, you know, deserve to be treated like people. They, you know, they're not, I mean, you get occasional prisoners are evil, you know, the occasional guilty people that are really evil. But, you know, most of them are not. And as I say, when their basic human rights are not even being met, like adequate ventilation, that is, in this day and age, in this civilized society, that's appalling, it's disgusting. And the fact that nobody even wants to know about that and do anything about it is even more disgusting. How do people get up in the morning and live with themselves, knowing that, you know, like as I said to you, I called some newspapers, not one of them have took the story up, and that's appalling, because they've got the power to do something about it and change it, and they don't care enough to. But if it was a sensational story tomorrow, like people started dropping and dying, suddenly they'd all want the story, you know. And where's the human element? The people, where's the human element?
Yeah, I mean, prisons in the way that they're set, so, you know, I say this every time, they're set to tick boxes. People in there are set up to go back in there, I believe. You know, all you need to get out when you do get let out is a postcode. So you're going from one situation into prison and then back into that situation that sent you there in the first place. They're not there to rehabilitate you. They are just there to hold you. And I think, you know,
they're there to try and break you, to be honest. I think they try and break you because they take away everything that makes you a human being, that makes you a person. They control everything you do. You know what I mean? And that's so wrong. That doesn't cure anything. And as I say, to be innocent and live like that and be treated like that, it doesn't even bear thinking about. You know, I feel for Mark. It breaks my heart, but I don't know how he must feel. It must, you know, you can't unless you're in there. He must just feel terrible. You know, Harry gets up and, you know, every now and again he has a little thing and he gives up and he don't talk to nobody, and it's hard for him, you know, and it's scary. It's going to have an effect on him for the rest of his life. And as I say, it's just so heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking in the society we're in today that's happening to Mark.
It is, but there are people out there that it's out of sight, out of mind. You know,
exactly.
People don't see what's going on in prisons. You know, it's an automatic presumption that if someone's in prison, they deserve to be there.
Exactly.
And people don't want to upset the apple cart in that
Yes,
way.
I agree.
The only person that I know has sort of really done that is Raphael Rowe,
Yes.
and getting his own conviction overturned
That's
and
right. That was through
prove
the
himself
Human
innocent.
Rights Court, wasn't it? He went through the Human Rights Court there on the Section 6 of an unfair trial. That's right. I did contact Raphael to see if he would be interested. He did say he would come back to me. He hasn't yet. I do appreciate he's a very busy man. So
I'll
I'm
send him
hoping
this.
maybe if he sees this, he may
I'll send him this.
come and talk to me.
Yeah, I'll send him this for definite.
Brilliant. I'll appreciate that if you do. Thank you very much.
You know,
And thank you so much for allowing me to tell Mark's story a little bit, you know, because every little bit of noise we make, you know, just hope that one right person will hear that noise, and that we have got like some websites up and running. We've got some banners made, t-shirts made. We are trying to create a campaign and create a bit of a noise. We're going to go on a march of some sort. We just went with Jenga. We are trying to create a noise because I think sometimes you've got to make a noise to be heard,
sure.
unfortunately. But so we are trying to do the best we can. But as I say, it's hard. You know, I feel like sometimes I feel daunted. I feel like I'm banging my head against a brick wall. I find it depressing. So God knows what Mark feels like. I can't even imagine.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. He's a very lucky guy having you on side.
He deserves it though. You know, he's not lucky. He's not lucky. He deserves it. You know what I mean? It's not luck that I'm out here and a lot of other people are out here fighting for him. It's because he deserves it. It's because he's a nice bloke and he's in prison for something he didn't do. So he deserves it. It's his God-given right. We should be doing it for him. Who would we be? What would we be if we didn't? You know what I'm saying? That's not luck. He deserves that. He deserves more. He deserves to be walking out that prison and getting on with his life. That's what he deserves as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And as I say, if anyone's listening that can help, please get in touch, you know.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
Exactly.
I do contact a lot of people about getting them on this. Yeah. I think sometimes I kind of lose sight on why I started this. You know, the whole reason I started this was because I didn't feel that I had a voice
yes.
For a long time.
Yeah.
And then I found my voice and then realized that there are people out there that actually don't have that voice. So, you know, the first time I did it, I working with escapees of human trafficking and sexual slavery. And that opened my eyes to, and my ears really, to actually the injustices that are out there. You know, it's not always been easy. I've been threatened and I've been trolled and things like that. But there are people out there.
When you stand up, doesn't it? It tends to happen when you stand up.
It does.
So people don't like you rocking their world and disturbing their inner serenity and peace and ignorance. Ignorance is bliss for a lot of people.
Exactly. And that's the whole reason I started this, because, you know, I wanted to give people that voice. I contact a lot of people and I've contacted celebrities. I've had some really great guests on. I've had celebrities on and stuff like that. And then I've had a lot of people that are, you know, like myself, that have found recovery and working with trauma, and that's great. That is great. These people have found their voice, and you and Mark, you needed one, which is why I stepped in.
We appreciate that so much, you know.
You know, and I hold this open for anybody of Jenga. You know, I do apologize if I've not contacted you. If you have messaged me, I will. I promise I will. It's been a really sort of mad couple of weeks. You know, I've got next week. I'm doing nothing, but you know, sometime over the next couple of weeks, I'll be getting in contact with people and really sort of highlighting some of these cases. I want to highlight the Luke Mitchell case. I want to highlight some of the ones that I
There's some
haven't really
appalling,
even
sad,
seen.
the whole of heartbreaking stories, Jenga stories are heartbreaking. They all are. They're all
I
so
came
very.
across one on there the other day about a woman that's got 2 daughters in there.
Yes, that's right. Yes,
You
that's right.
know,
I met quite a few on the march, and all of their stories are heartbreaking. You know, it's appalling. As I said to you, I mean, I think one of them, their child looked someone up on Facebook and is in jail for murder, for looking somebody up on Facebook. I don't know the full story, so I wouldn't talk about it. That's their story. That's for them to tell. But there's some heartbreaking stories on it with the Jenga, and they've done amazing work. They helped contribute towards the change in the law. Back in the day with the Jogee case, they contributed towards that. And as I say, they're now trying to put a new bill through Parliament, which is hoping to lessen the test that people have to pass via the CCRC to get back to court. And if they're successful for that, that will open a lot of doors for people like Mark, who was sentenced before the law change. Unfortunately, it won't help many after their law change, but for the before, it will. So that's another amazing step. So they're very amazing people. You meet some amazing people at time in these sort of situations.
is there an official charity that people can go through, that people can donate?
I'm not sure. I know Jenga's very well known. They're all over the internet, Jenga. So maybe that, I don't know if they take contributions or anything like that, to be truthful. I'm not sure. You'd have to contact them directly. As I say, I wouldn't want to give you a wrong answer. But as I say, I know Jenga is online and they're always looking for support and things like that. So, yeah, they're on. You Google them and you'll see Jenga come up. As I say, it's JENG small BA. You know, Jenga, but they do an amazing job. And as I said, they all deserve their cases to be heard and be reviewed. And as I said to you, I don't see why the government can't at least agree to review them. I understand they can't just agree to release everybody. They could at least review them in a fair way.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they make the noise like they're going to review them and they don't know. Open the folder and go, no, they should be in there. You know, properly review them, an independent review of these cases and the evidence that's put these people in there.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing for me, what I struggle to understand, how a jury of peers.
Oh, that's another thing you saying that. Let me interrupt you. Sorry. When at the end of Mark's case, the jury, they found the other two guilty, but they wanted more explanation in Mark's case. They wanted them to. They wanted Mark's brief to explain again the principles of the joint enterprise. They had some questions that they wanted to ask. Unfortunately, Mark's brief was out of court that day, so they got a temporary solicitor in that knew nothing about the case, and the judge himself to sum up what the joint enterprise meant. And I think in a silly little crime, that would have been okay. But in a case like murder, where he was looking at 30 years, that should have only been answered by Mark's brief. So I think that was done wrong in the courtroom. That wasn't fair on Mark. You know, a fair answer wasn't given, and a competent answer wasn't given because the brief wasn't aware of the case. And the jury eventually found Mark guilty, but they took a couple of weeks longer. And unfortunately, they found him guilty. But I do think that's because it wasn't properly explained to him, because his brief was out of court on the day. And I think that should have been adjourned because it was such a serious case, till his brief could be present and explained.
Yeah, that don't sit right with me.
No, exactly. There's a lot that doesn't sit right about this case, honestly. The more I read, the more gobsmacked I am, the more I'm thinking, like, what the hell? How did this happen? You know, it's just like, there's more wrong with it than there is right with it. It's just, as I say, I've been studying it for a long time. A while now, reading paperwork, looking into it over and over, bits and questioning bits. I've got a very inquisitive mind, so I'm studying law September, and I cannot find anything. I can't, and I'm just gobsmacked.
No, but even on the joint enterprise, I struggle to see how a jury of peers can convict someone on pure conjecture,
I know.
which is what it is. It's
I
all
know.
it is pure conjecture. It's all hearsay.
Yes,
There's no
exactly.
burden of proof there.
Exactly.
And that sort of, you know, I'm not a solicitor, I'm not a lawyer, you know, I'm not trained in law or anything like that, but I know when something doesn't sit right,
Exactly.
and that doesn't sound right, that doesn't feel right to me. And I, for one, will be looking more into it to see what I can do.
Brilliant,
You know,
brilliant. I mean, I don't believe Mark was given a fair trial. There are avenues we're exploring at the moment, and we'll just see where they take us. So hopefully, I seriously believe if something's right and something's good, then it will work out. And I seriously believe that we will get Mark out because it's what should be. You know, and I won't let go of that. I seriously believe that. I believe it's just finding that one thing that someone listens to that will open that door, and that will set Mark free. Because if not, then, you know, God help the rest of us. God help society.
yeah. I mean, you know, I'm part of a lot of sort of HMP groups and crime groups and things like that. You know, I know a few people. I was very lucky to have Charlie Bronson write the foreword to my last book. And, you know, he served what about 44, 46 years on short sentences. And there's something not right with that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, it's obvious that the system is broken. You know, I've got a few people on there that are bringing up, you know, Charles and that. I guess that's because it's a more famous name, but at the end of the day, how do you get a name heard? You keep speaking it. So what we can hope by this is that we get it to as many people as possible to listen and hear the name Mark Osborne.
We have got a few Free Mark Osborne Official on Instagram, Free Mark Osborne Official on TikTok. And our website is coming up as well. We will have a website up and running, and that's not running yet, but it will be. So we are trying to raise awareness. We're trying to get things together, you know. But you know, I work full time. It's quite hard to get things done, but we're doing the best we can. And these things are up and running. There is also a petition on the site, and maybe I could send it to you. Maybe you could post it on your website for Mark. I don't know if you'd be happy to do that. I can send you.
Yeah, I'm happy to do anything that I can.
Yes, brilliant.
I'm going to be putting a page up anyway. I've got a website, jwgreg.wordpress.com. That's got all my stuff on there. If you have a look at the Accidental Journalist, this is where this will go. But I am going to, I do some blogs on there. There are blogs on there, and I'm going to be looking at doing more into miscarriages of justice, you know, cases that I think need to be looked at, because I want to be doing more right and stuff like that.
Someone's got to do it. Some people have got to, you know, they've got to. And I think the more people that hear about it and listen and really listen, they will have to get involved, because you can't listen to these people's stories and not get involved, because it's heartbreaking and it's wrong. And you know, as I say, if like your people like yourselves can get it out there and people start listening, then action may start happening. Because, you know, when you hear these stories, you can't not react when you actually really listen to them. You can't.
No, and I think most people that have some sort of empathy, I don't think it'll sit right with them either.
Exactly.
You know, and we can only hope and pray that this this interview goes some way to helping the case.
Yes.
You know, if anybody does want to see the paperwork,
Yes.
drop me a message on the accidental journalist page, and I will put you in touch.
We have actually got memory sticks and drive links so that you can view it, all the paperwork, if somebody wanted to look at it and review it. So we can always supply them. So if they give you their details, you can, you know, forward them to me or whatever. So we can supply all that sort of stuff, and they can have it. They're welcome to read anything they need to read, and ask any questions they want to ask. So yes, I'm more than happy to. And as I say, I'll give you the link to Mark's petition, because if we can push that a little bit. I think we've only got about 600 signatures at the moment. You need about 10,000 before Parliament even start to even look. But so we've got a long way to go. But you know.
Yeah, we'll get that posted.
Yeah.
I will get my admins to get that posted out on some of the pages. I will get this video sent to people like Rathro, James English, and let's see if we can get you some more airtime. You certainly deserve it. I really admire your passion and what you're doing. I think it's more than admirable. You know, there's not many people out there that would fight tooth and nail for a friend. You know, you can count them on one hand. And I think that is just absolutely amazing what you're doing.
Thank you. As I say, Mark deserves it. It's the least I can do for him.
And I'll help where I can.
I wish I could do more. I wish I could do more, and I can't, you know, but I'm trying. We're trying. And, you know, I'll just keep going and going and going. And hopefully soon some door will open.
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. In fact, I know it will. We'll push this out wherever we can.
Fantastic.
So yeah, if anybody wants to get in touch, please do. I'll put you in touch, and you can facilitate chats yourself. I'm going to end the interview now, but if you stay on for a few minutes, I'll cut the live feed and we'll just have a quick chat.
All right. Thank you ever so much for having us on and here, letting us, you know, get our story out there. I really appreciate it. And I'll speak for Mark as well. He appreciates it from the bottom of his heart, you know. It means a lot to him that someone's allowed him to get his story out there. So thank you.
No, and thank you for coming on. You know, I know you were very nervous to start with. You've done brilliantly. You've done absolutely brilliantly. You know, I couldn't have asked for any better. So, guys, there's not going to be another one, I don't think, for the next couple of weeks. There might be one before next week. I don't know yet. I'm working on it. But if not, we'll have a few weeks off, and then I shall see you back in August. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, as always. The next episode is episode 30, so it's a big one for me. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody that tunes in week after week after week to listen, and, you know, not just listen, but really get involved in the conversation and push this out on Facebook sites. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys, and I shall see you again next time.